Welcome to Adventures in Life. I'm Linda Rose, and when last we met, my guest is Dr. Earl Beecher, a professor of finance who usually sits in this chair, and we turn the tables, and he has become a record producer. And so we were talking about his first star, Paul Smith, pianist extraordinaire, and how they got into the business. And then we just ran out of time, so I asked him if he could possibly come back. We would beg and plead, and we lied to you because we just rolled tape for another show. So here we are with Dr. Earl Beecher. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda.
So now tell us more about Paul. Paul Smith, the wonderful jazz pianist.
Paul is just an incredible talent. We showed the albums that he's done for Outstanding. I couldn't possibly bring all of the other albums that he did, but he has done a series of books.
Oh, we should say Outstanding is the name of
the record
Earl
company.
Beecher's record company.
Yes, thank you. He has done a series of books for the Mel Bay Publishing Company on jazz techniques.
Oh.
I'm not associated with that company, but I talked to Mr. Bay at the NOM convention one time, and he said these Paul Smith albums on jazz techniques are as good as the Hannon albums are in classical piano training. Wow. And he said it's one of the best lines that they have.
And what level are these for? Are these for people who already play the piano?
Oh yes, some of the top professional performers come to Paul for lessons.
Wow.
I'm not going to name names, but you would be surprised and
well, they're smart. They're smart. I mean, this man is obviously a genius.
This man is incredible what he can do. I want to talk about the other artists that I have. I mentioned Tony Rizzi. Tony passed away a couple of years ago, but he was one of the greatest of the arrangers. And these albums are done with 5 guitars, and it sounds like one instrument. He has these people playing together. And some of the fellows that were with him on these sessions, which were back in about 1975, have gone on to become pretty major stars. Grant Geisman in particular. Grant has a chorus in Long Train Runnin' that I think is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard done on the guitar. The next artist I'd like to talk about actually is Paul Smith's wife. She was a major artist in New York singing before she married Paul and moved out here. She had her own CBS television series, The Annette Warren Show, and then she retired from show business when she married Paul. Now she's decided to come back into it, and she does a lot of religious things, like this one, His Eyes on the Sparrow, is basically a religious album. I wanted her to sing the blues. I said, I want a tort song album that when you get through, Annette, I want to just sit there and quietly slit my wrists, you know? And she did it. This one, she sings the songs. They're all the old war horses, all the standards, you know, like Remember That Old Feeling. My Melancholy Baby is the most upbeat thing in the album. And remember the song, What Now, My Love?
Yes.
I wanted her to record that. She didn't want to until one night Paul went over to the piano and said, I wonder what this would sound like in a minor key. He put that in a minor key, and when you take those words and sing it sad in a minor key, it takes on a whole new temperament. It's not the upbeat thing that the other great artists recorded, you know. And then she did another semi-religious one here. It's What You Believe In. And the portraits that you see on some of these albums, Frank Torriello did those for me, and he is wonderful. And then David Ross wrote a whole show for Annette. All of the material in here is original, and it's based on the various aspects of a woman's life, being a woman. And some of the titles of the songs are things like This House, a housewife who loves her home. Don't Bother Me Now, Little Girl, the child inside of her as she's trying to raise her own children. And the Questionnaire, oh, this is a comedy one that is just absolute classic. Annette has done 4 albums, and she's got a couple out on ABC Paramount that she did a few years ago. And currently, she is performing with Hollywood's secret singing stars, which are India Adams, Betty Wand, and Annette Warren Smith. They were the voices that overdubbed for the great movies. Annette sang for Ava Gardner in Showboat. So when you hear Bill and you hear Can't Help Loving, that's Annette.
She had a pretty nice voice, didn't Ava Gardner?
Ava had a very lovely voice, but you would not know that it wasn't Ava singing when you watch it.
Such an art.
Yes, and the other 2 ladies are very talented, and they are making some waves around the country now appearing as Hollywood secret singing stars.
What a wonderful idea.
Yes, Betty Wan sang for Leslie Caron in Gigi. And India Adams sang for Sid Charisse in The Bandwagon.
What happened with them now? Did they ever get credit on the records?
Oh, yes.
Oh, they did?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, good.
They are well known.
Our unions are better than we think.
Then my son dragged me over to hear Beowulf, which is a heavy metal rock group that were rehearsing in a garage there in Huntington Beach. And they were kids that went to high school with him. This album's been played all over the world. All of these albums have been played all over the world. But this was my introduction into heavy metal. And I wasn't sure I liked it, but I've grown to enjoy it.
Can you listen to it without earplugs?
No, because I usually crank it up. If you're going to hear it right. Then I ran into a group in Orange County, the Big Band Commotion. And this is big band, this is a 17-piece band, a very excellent dance group. There are some beautiful people here. Walt Hackler, who plays the saxophone, he's wonderful. John Linfors, very, very good. There's a lot of the names of people. Mike Sharp, who has a group appearing in Orange County. It's fun to work with people of this caliber. And then I met Betty Perkins. When it comes to vocal, Betty sings gospel. She won't sing anything else. She says, I'm here to serve the Lord, and I'm going to do this. Zubin Mehta said this woman has the greatest natural voice in the last 200 years. And I was talking to a friend of mine who has a huge choir, a 350-voice choir, up in Salt Lake City, and he always does a major concert at Christmas. I said, you've got to have Betty as your key artist, as a guest artist. And so he did this one time. And he came to my home, and she did, and he sat down and he said, Betty, I want to see if we can find something in your key. And he hit middle C, and she sang it, and he went down an octave and a half to G below middle C. She's still hitting full round tones, and he goes up from middle C, and he gets up. Finally, he's covered a 5-octave range, and she's still hitting everything clean and pure. He says, I think we can find something in your key, Betty. And then he looks at me like, he said, when they were rehearsing...
Everything is in Betty's key.
Yes, oh, this woman, she's wonderful. She has power. She has everything. And she went up to Salt Lake to appear. And he said, before Betty got there, they were rehearsing the choir on the numbers they were going to do with her. They had to have 4 people to sing her part to get the full range. Then later, Zubin Mehta invited her to come to New York City and sing with the New York Philharmonic. Oh. And I called Time magazine, and I said, are you going to cover the Betty Perkins concert? What Betty Perkins? I said, it's going to be in Harlem at the Abyssinian Baptist Church in April. He said, why would we be interested in Betty Perkins' concert in Harlem? And I said, because the New York Philharmonic is going there to accompany her. And there was this long pause, and he says, are you kidding me? I said, no. He said, the New York Philharmonic has been in existence 130-some years. It has been all over the world. It has never played a concert in Harlem, and it's going there to accompany an unknown? I said, yes. He said, you bet we'll cover it. She got a full-page rave review in Time magazine. This woman is wonderful. She lives in Watts. And I'd like to take just a moment just to let you hear maybe 3 or 4 measures of this voice.
Let's hear Betty.
Let's hear Betty, please. She is the absolute personification of a gospel singer. She was the solo voice or the key voice on the first James Cleveland Choir record that hit and established that choir. She has sung with several other groups, and she's done 2 albums for me, plus a few on some other labels. And well, there's nowhere to go after Betty. She's just wonderful, you know. Then there is some place to go. I was introduced to Madeline Vergeri, a very beautiful lady, and she recorded with Roger Newman's rather large band, a 17-piece band. And after they released this, they got married.
Well,
I was really thrilled with this. Madeline was the lead singer with Ray Anthony's band for quite a while, and she performs concerts in Long Beach quite often. And a year ago, she was the main soloist at the opening day at Disneyland. So I've been very fortunate in meeting wonderful people, and that's why they're on the Outstanding label. Then I have created another label, More Rhythm, where I want more rhythm and drive. Bruce Escovitz.
Equally as outstanding, I'm sure, though.
Oh, yeah. I've been thrilled. I've been very fortunate to work with this. Let me skip over here to some of the cassettes for just a minute. We have, the first one there is by Joe Valenti and Bill Baker. Joe is a trumpeter, a marvelous trumpeter. Have you ever heard the opening theme to Highway to Heaven where that trumpet plays?
Oh, yes.
That's Joe.
Oh, that's Joe.
That's Joe. And he and Bill Baker did this album where Bill plays all the keyboards and everything behind Joe. Now, Joe also conducts the Peninsula Symphony. He's a wonderful symphony conductor. He's a music teacher. But as a trumpeter, one of the very best.
What sort of music do they do?
It's jazz. It's jazz. It's pop jazz. Then I ran into a guitarist by the name of Stephen King. This man is incredible.
Scary, incredible?
I know. Well, it is scary. I did a television show with him one time, and I said, play me flamenco. Bang, he went right into flamenco. Now play me heavy metal. Right into it. Play me pop. Right into it. Play me jazz. And he switched styles instantaneously, and it's just incredible what this man can do. So when we released this album, I entitled it Guitar Like You've Never Heard It Before. And people say, I have never heard a guitar do that before. I should have done a cut or two from that one. Maybe I could bring in some cuts of some of the TV shows that I've done with some of these people. Howard Crossan. As I was driving over here to do the show today, I was listening to KGRB because they play a lot of the big band music. I met Howard. A friend of mine by the name of Les Douglas is a vocalist. And he invited me to come over for a rehearsal, and he had a 5-piece group behind him, and Howard was there playing the saxophone, and it was just lovely. And then Les took a break, and the group started to jam. Do we need to take a break?
Yeah, we need to take a break. You know your show so well. Okay. We're going to take a break. This is Linda Rose for Adventures in Life with Dr. Earl Beecher. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Adventures in Life. I'm Linda Rose. I'm here today with Dr. Earl Beecher, who usually sits in this chair, and he's talking not about his life as a finance professor, but about his life as a record producer with wonderful, wonderful talents. We've heard little snippets about. Okay, what do you have there, Earl?
Well, Howard Crossan was there with this group with Les Douglas, and when Les decided to take a break, the group started to jam. And Howard shifted styles completely and went into an Earl Bostic style. Now, as I was driving here today, I heard KGRB playing Earl Bostic. When I was in Korea, in the Army, over there, the Armed Forces Radio played more Bostic than any other artist. He was the popular one. It's a real grinding sort of saxophone, a Boots Randolph, the Yakety sax, how do I describe it, you know?
I think you've done a very good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Howard is the best I've heard. Yeah. I mean, he's as good as Bostic, in my opinion. And I got him to do this whole album, and he started jamming with Deep Purple, which is a favorite song of mine anyway. And so that's the first cut on this Howard Crossan one. And I wish I had brought a TV tape I did with Howard, because as he was there playing, Howard has a way of sort of losing himself in it and rocking, and you can see he's into the music. And I said he would be marvelous on camera. I did manage to get him in front of camera, and he's better than I thought he'd be. It is absolutely contagious. Then I have something New Age, A Step Beyond, by John Thomas, so that we've got most of the different kinds of music.
You're covering your bases here.
Covering all the bases. Bruce Escovitz did a real sort of a funky album. Funk 45 is the first cut in it, and he is really good. He has some marvelous musicians with him. Bob Chance lives in Buena Park. The Orange County Register said he had the best group in Orange County at one time, describing him. He's a big fellow and ex-Marine, and he stands there and he sings country and he sings pop. and the women come to hear him all the time. They love what he does. And I told him, he did a variety of things on this, so much so, I said, let's concentrate. So he did one called Rock Country, which is a little bit in between. There's an original in here that I just love. It's called Another 20th Century Fox. Sometime, I know you can't do it on television. We sit and look at each other while the music plays, but Bob is a marvelous. And then Gene Rockwell Gant, he had 4 hits in the top 10 in the 60s in the country charts. And I was fortunate enough to meet him, and he did a country album for me. And it's a thrill to be able to work with all of this talent. I don't know how to describe it. George Graham, he plays the trumpet, jazz trumpet, and he has some wonderful musicians with him again. Dave Stone on acoustic, Bob Payne on trombone, Paul via piano on guitar, and Ralph Razzi on drums, and Tom Rainier on the keyboards. Beautiful, straight-ahead jazz album. And then I get to Paul Keisha. Now this one is sort of special. This is a double album. It's got 4 sides in it. Paul Keisha plays the trumpet incredibly. He's a young man. The first side is rock. The second side is forecasting where big band music is going to go in the next 20 years. And I've received a lot of college professors who've written me and said, you guys are right on target. He grew out of the style of Stan Kenton. He loves Stan Kenton. And so this album has the Kenton style. The third side was ballads, and the fourth side was theatrical type things. Well, when it came to the ballads one, Paul and I had an argument. I wanted Nightingale to be the lead cut. He says, no, it's got to be I Have Dreamed. We got into a big argument over it, and I was going away on vacation, and so I had him master it while I was gone, and he put I Have Dreamed as the lead cut, and I was fuming until I sat down and listened to it. He was right. I will publicly eat crow, Paul. You were right. I played the trumpet from the 3rd grade till I graduated from high school, and every time I hear that cut, it brings tears to my eyes. He is so good.
How do you know when you go about these different artists? Do you know that they're going to be good recording-wise? I mean, what is it? Is it your instinct?
Usually I hear samples of what they've done or something like that.
But there's a long way between samples of what someone has done and producing an album, as you, I'm sure, know.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, this is a 26-piece orchestra with 2 synthesizers, so you've got a really full sound.
And then where was this recorded?
This was recorded at, it's now called Webster Communications. Van Webster, my favorite engineer there that I've been working with, but it was called Digital Sound Recording at the time. What I'd like to do, I want to just play you the last few bars of I Have Dreamed, where Paul goes to D above high C. I've never heard another trumpeter hit that high and hold it clean. So let's just listen to a few closing phrases on that one.
Okay. That is incredible.
It is.
What a
It's
genius.
outstanding,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
is. It's wonderful, and I love that song, and what a very unusual artistry.
Yes, yes, and it was controlled. It was sweet. He didn't blast to get there.
Yeah, and when you thought he couldn't get any higher, he just
It brings
took it
tears to my
beautifully.
eyes.
Yes, wonderful.
Yes. Then Alex Giambrini sent me a tape, and he studied at the Conservatory of Music in Geneva. And he has classical background, but when he plays pop and does it, it's wonderful. I've been so fortunate to be able to work with people of this caliber. What happened with Bob Chance and some of the others, I started what was called a publishing company because people asked me, do you have publishing on these songs? And
yeah, I was going to get to that, but I thought you might want to tell us about Drew.
Oh, I'm dying to get to Drew. But,
oh, I'm sorry.
Well, yes. What happened with the publishing on the songs, I'm getting mountains of cassettes, demos sent to me from all over the world. And I'm having such a wonderful time just picking the great ones. Drew sent me the best demo I've received yet, in my opinion. Yeah. And I called him, I said, hey, we've got to do a whole album with you. And he did. This album is unique in that it's hard-driving pop rock, but he has a different flavor to it. The second cut, he did it on the Near Eastern scale, the musical scale, and so it has an international feel that nobody else has captured.
I have had the privilege of hearing this. You were nice enough to give me a copy a while back, and it's wonderful. It's quite interesting, and it's quite different. Has a very different flavor to it. Yeah.
And yet it drives. It drives.
Oh, incredible.
It's got more rhythm.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Some of the other people who have sent me some marvelous things. Tom Adelstein, he sent me a demo, and I said, Tom, we've got to work together, which we did. And he sounds like Bob Dylan, but the members of his group have 33 Grammys between them. It's one gorgeous band. And
tell me now about Earl Beecher Publishing.
What I do is when somebody wants to work with me, what I do is sort of guide them what to do, what kind of music, how to prepare, and I know which radio stations would listen to their music and which ones won't, and distribution, and then I try to guide them, and I say, keep the cuts short, don't put a long intro. If I hear click, 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 I know it's amateur night. I get a lot of really bad things. And I say to these people, look, please do this, go out and appear in front of a paying audience and get seasoned, and then get back to me. And then I found people do that, and we can help careers. I want to mention some of the other artists just really quickly because I know our time is going.
Yes.
The Shades of Mystery, I loved their demo, and I did the album with them there, which you can see. And that's the one that we use for the opening and closing theme.
Right.
Uh-huh.
This one.
Yeah. We use that on all of our B. Daffodil productions, using the Shades of Mystery. And then Bob McHugh sent me an album. He appears often at Lincoln Center. He's on the East Coast. I've never met him face to face, but as a pianist, he's one of the great. You know, it's such a joy to find people like this to work with.
So when you worked with him, did you record him here, or was
he sent me the finished tape.
Ah.
He was good enough. He sent me a finished tape. I listened to it. I said, Bob, where do you go? I can just float on this. So we called it Floating on Wings of Ivory and Black. And he has that quality. Alex St. Felix sent me a tape. He was in Germany in the Army. But I'm receiving these things. Patty O'Hara is wonderful. She sent me one called Mixed Moods. There's a song in there called In Your Eyes that is one of the best love songs I've ever heard. It should be sung at every wedding, because it says, I've searched the world over and finally found you, and in your eyes I see a love just for me. There are things that touch people. Then, last but not least, I want to mention the country sampler. I have 14 different artists there where I took one song from each of their demos and put it into an album, and it covers the complete broad spectrum of country music and also the broad spectrum of the United States. My hope, Linda, is to help to get careers started, to help people get the exposure, to give them the guidance that I've learned the hard way, if you know what I'm saying. Because I found out, as Paul told me, there's a lot of problems in this business. A lot of stations won't play your music. I was going to bring a book called The Hitmen. It describes how some of the majors pay people payola to play their records and also pays people payola not to play the records of the independent labels. So how do you get it out there? This has been one of the problems that you run into. A lot of the distributors accepted my product and refused to pay me. And so I went through all of that. So when somebody says, well, I'm starting my own record label, I said, good, I know the road you're starting down.
So when they
Good
say
luck.
when it's a dirty business but someone has to do it, you're saying, yes, me?
I wanted to do it. I got myself into it. Paul warned me. I did my best, and I'm having a wonderful time with it. We are gradually making the headway, getting it out there, letting people hear, because I have been blessed to deal with people who are truly outstanding. And then on the more rhythm label, I'm putting the big band, the Danceable. I'm right now starting to work with a new salsa artist, and so we're going to be, you know, into the rhythms. I love the Latin rhythms. As a teenager, I taught for Arthur Murray, and I knew the rumba, the samba, the tango, the mambo, the merengue, the pachango, you know. I love that. And so I'm going to have that on the label as soon
Including
as I can.
Arthur Murray taught me Dancing in a Hurry, that wonderful song.
No, I taught for him, remember?
I know.
But that was many years ago. It sort of blows people away. You're still ambulatory.
We're almost running out of time. I want to ask you, do you still accept tapes?
Oh, I've been getting a lot of... They put me in the songwriter's yearbook, and I get mountains of tapes, so I'm very slow responding. But I do listen, and I do write a personal letter. And a lot of people call me back, even when I say, keep up the good work, you're not there yet. Yeah. And they say, at least you respond, because most people give me a form letter.
I have no idea when you send a tape in any part of the business, whether you really don't know if anyone's listening, anyone's looking at it, and you know, it's wonderful to hear that people like you really do care enough to listen. And as you said, you've heard a lot of bad music, but you've sure heard a lot of good music. Because I can vouch for what we've heard today, and we heard the last show, and Drew's CD is just simply wonderful. It's just a pleasure to have you here. I love having you in the other seat and me here, and I mean, although you do this much better, but it's so much fun to have you as a guest. I'm Linda Rose. This is Adventures in Life. Our guest today is usually your host, Dr. Earl Beecher, who has shared some of his wonderful music with us. And if you didn't see part one, look for that too. That'll be playing near you soon. Earl, thank you so much for being with me.
Linda, thank you. I really appreciate your being the host.
Wonderful.